Hey y'all!
Man, I love video games.
Just an experience you can't get anywhere else. Is that the DMV?
Yeah. Good things come to those who wait, like a diagnosis.
Thank God, now I know!
And video games are no different. I mean, have you ever played one? Half the time you're not. Loading screens! Because, damn, this is easy to research.
Done.
It's something we're all used to at this point. It's honestly weirder if a game doesn't have a loading screen. You freak. Loading wasn't very common in the early days of gaming, primarily due to the use of cartridges. See, when we plug this in, the console doesn't really need to load up anything. The game is here in its entirety, and it connects directly to the console like a puzzle piece. You didn't have a laser reading a spinning disc, scanning data to load into the system. Everything you could possibly need from this video game is right here, and the console can read and display it all almost instantaneously. Definitely helped how simple games were back then. I mean, like, oh wow, this game has loading screens and this game doesn't? And hey, cartridge games did have to load things. You just never noticed. They rarely stopped you dead in your tracks to announce big things in the works, which made the cartridge games that did just come off as pretentious. Look at me, I'm a big game with lots to load. You're Mickey fucking Mania. A handful of cartridge games did feature visible loading screens, which, like, okay. Batman Forever on Super Nintendo just tells you to hold on. Why? This is on screen for like 2 seconds. If you didn't put anything here, I wouldn't know it was even loading. What if they didn't put this here? Were they afraid they were gonna lose ya?
Well, this is just fucking ridiculous.
Street Fighter Alpha 2 doesn't ever say it's loading, but I'm not dumb. At least Fatal Fury on Super Nintendo had the guts to admit it, but hey, these are unique situations. Obviously, when the system's being pushed to its limit, some funny things are gonna happen. Yeah, okay, fucking hilarious. But with other formats, loading was far more commonplace. You got it with floppy disks, cassettes, and man, when you saw that loading screen, it was the exact same as any other loading screen. Not really a ton to geek out to here. I mean, if somebody asks you what your favorite classic loading screen is,
Why are we having this conversation?
and my lord, you really needed something back then. With computer systems like the Commodore 64, loading could take minutes, and what did you get for it? Epilepsy. Thankfully, there were fast loaders to help speed the computer up. Some in particular included mini games you could play while the full game was loading, like the Space Invaders wannabe, which is ingenious. So damn ingenious, Namco did the same thing on Ridge Racer for the PlayStation 1. And then filed a patent for minigames and loading screens to ensure we would never get anything like this ever again. How did this give them any competitive edge? Damn, I want to play Swampy's Revenge, but what am I gonna do when I'm not playing Swampy's Revenge? See, with Ridge Racer, I don't have these problems.
Ridge Racer finally gets a point. This has brought us to the dawn of the modern loading screen. The PlayStation 1 era, when loading became a standard you just came to expect from most games. But not every game. Loading was at the forefront of the cartridges versus CDs debate. The PlayStation could house games with large file sizes, full motion video, voice acting, these huge worlds to explore, all at the cost of lengthier load times, while the Nintendo 64 liked all of that for the sake of quicker loading. Guess who won? Thank God I saved 30 seconds on the load times, and now my life can suck quicker.
Turns out, nobody cared if they had to wait for a game to load, and the battle between the PS1 and N64 proved that. I mean, here are games that had loading screens on PlayStation, compared to the games that didn't have loading screens on Nintendo 64. Of course, now that there was no escaping load times, some developers decided to get creative with them. Obviously, Ridge Racer is an example of that, featuring a bite-sized version of Galaxian to play while waiting, which obviously opened up a world of loading screen possibilities.
Fucking patents, man.
Now, over the years, we have gotten some interactive loading screens, like Test Drive on PS2 and Xbox. We got Pong! Now, wait a second. Why were they able to do this when Namco had this concept patented?
Same way you can legally murder. Don't get caught.
I assume this just wasn't on their radar, or they didn't care that much. I mean, how much did Namco really utilize their patent here? Well, look no further than Tekken 5. Jesus Christ! How do we go from like 12 pixels to more than 12 pixels. This loading screen is based on the arcade game Starblade, and it's amazing to see how far Namco loading screens have come.
It's crazy. They went from singular to plural.
Yeah, the Tekken and Ridge Racer games are some of the only major examples from them, which, man, for a developer with such a rich arcade history, you'd think it'd be the easiest thing in the world to throw any of these bastards on a loading screen. Hell, on PS1 alone, you could have had a little mini Pac-Man game while Pac-Man World loaded. Easy. But no. I mean, why bother when you own the pen? Not like there's any competition. Thankfully, this patent expired in 2015. Now, I don't know how much it was genuinely enforced over the years, but regardless, we can rejoice. Video game loading screens can finally be fun!
Fun sucks.
Hey now, let's be fair. We've had some pretty great ones over the years. One that immediately comes to mind is Splatoon on Wii U. When you're waiting for the online match to start, you can play Squid Jump down on the gamepad. Honestly, one of the best uses of the dual screens of the Wii U. It almost makes the investment worth it, almost. Especially considering Splatoon 2 just lets you dick around with the music, and Splatoon 3 just has you practice the actual game. Boo! That's practical. I don't want practical. I want jokes. But I can't deny how smart practice rooms are as loading screens. Like with the Bayonetta games, you have an opportunity to try out some combos or discover brand new ones. Or the Assassin's Creed games, which are the exact same thing, but now including the addition of nothing to do. Just running around in a void. That's all I need. Which explains why I'm malnourished. These make sense in the context of the franchise. You're transported into the lives of your ancestors, so the environment has to load up, not only in the game, but the story as well. It gives you something to do, that's for damn sure. I mean, Rayman Origins and Legends both let you do similar things while the stage is loading. It just gives you a chance to play the game before you play the game. A little taste, you know, get your bearings on the controls, the feel of the character. I mean, it isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but these three examples showcase how loading screens can actually enhance the gameplay that follows. For examples, you ever just sitting there with these static ass screens and then when the game starts, you're not ready? Oh no, damn it, why do I play with butter to pass the time? These ensure you're prepared for anything.
How about an ulcer?
Bad loading screens. What makes one so abysmal?
I'll tell you later.
Why do the games with the longest load times have nothing to do during them? Lego City Undercover. Boot the game up, you get this spinning police badge for nearly a minute, title screen, and then... Welcome back, old friend. What, the title screen took this long to load? And you couldn't at least have a progress bar or something? Probably not. That would have frustrated me more seeing how slow it is visualized. But that's the Wii U version. On the other consoles, we get a different loading screen and faster load times. Faster is faster. We can move this 3D model of a Lego set around, which, I mean, this isn't great, but Lord, it's better than the original. If you stare at this long enough, you will go insane. Now, does that make Half-Life 2's better? These ones are just weird, man. How they just freeze the game randomly to load. Not like this happens before or after a cutscene or during a time in which it makes sense for the game to fade to black and take a second to load. Nah, it's just, hey, I know you're in the middle of playing, but check this out. It's got the same energy as, hey, fuck you, look at this badge. Of course, I understand why Half-Life 2 does what Half-Life 2 is. We're playing in a massive world here, especially for 2004. Sure, it's awkward, but to an extent, I respect them for just telling it how it is. Not trying to hide anything. Yeah, we're loading, what of it? That's something loads of games refuse to do, opting to mask these screens in ways that feel natural to the player so they don't notice.
Yeah, I don't notice.
Getting harder to find a modern game these days that doesn't feature squeezing through a crack for 10 seconds. And because of that, it's easy to point at this and claim that this is all to mask loading screens. Now, what's my source?
Common sense.
I mean, why the hell else would these characters be squeezing through cracks? 'Cause they have to? No, it's obviously because they're trying to hide something. They're f***ing with me. And they dare f*** their customer? I found that once people notice something's a thing, they all of a sudden need to have a stance on it. Like, are these really that annoying or annoying in the slightest? Ugh, another hidden load screen, masked by this incredibly natural part of the level design that I only found out hides loading screens once every game started to do it. Do these even hide loading screens? Some developers have come out to say these are here for design purposes, to funnel the player in a particular direction while naturally stopping them from going backwards, which, I mean, sure, the game is loading stuff during this segment. Could be a lot, could be a little, but to claim this is just a hidden load screen, it's not fair. Most of the time when these pop up, it's to aid the level design first and foremost. And if these really get on your nerves, well, damn, I'd like to see what else pisses you off.
Fingers.
Whenever I hear arguments about these, they're often called pace breakers, but I don't get that at all. When are you in the middle of action and it just hard cuts to this? These almost always occur during a pretty quiet walking segment. And if this is a pace breaker, I don't want to know what this is. It's easy to blame the games themselves for bad load times, but hey, it's not always their fault. Let's take a look at the Neo Geo CD, a console with such horrendous load times, they put out a revision with the sole purpose of just fixing that. The Neo Geo CD-Z. It's just the Neo Geo CD, but now with faster loading. I never said fast loading. These early CD-based consoles had it pretty rough. I mean, it takes minutes upon minutes to boot games up, and for what?
Worth the wait.
But what game has the worst load times? The one that immediately comes to mind is Nintendo Badge Arcade on the Nintendo 3DS, a free download that would offer icons to decorate your home screen. You pay for credits to nab them with a crane game, with new badges being added via consistent updates. So there's a lot going on here. You gotta load up the app, connect to the internet, and the 3DS menu is heavily involved here, doing something it was never designed to do. So there's tons of reasons this takes a while to boot up. 10 minutes of reasons. Jesus, that makes Grand Theft Auto 5s look like a blink and you miss it moment. Well, if the blink turns into a nap. Back when it launched on the Xbox 360, GTA 5 would take like 3 minutes to boot up, which a few re-releases later, here on the PlayStation 5, it takes still pretty damn long for an Xbox 360 game on PlayStation 5. Well, how about an Xbox 360 game on Xbox 360? Sonic the Hedgehog from 2006. Here, watch this. You've just experienced a third of Sonic 06. Load screens genuinely make up such a huge percentage of this game's runtime. You talk to a character to start a mission. Loading screen. The character tells you something. Loading screen. Here's the mission. Loading screen. The character thanks you. Loading screen. And you know what the craziest thing is? This shit boots up instantly. That's like a 4-second load, and then here's the title screen, which then plays this huge cutscene. Yet it has to load Robert telling me to put my damn shoes on. It just makes me want to play a good game, like Bloodborne. This is the worst loading screen. Like, look at this. What the hell is this? It's the logo on black. That's it. And with how difficult the game is, you're gonna die a lot and see this pop up every single time for a minute and a half straight. I'll hand it to Sonic 06. What's more interesting to look at here? Silver the Hedgehog or nothing? Damn, give me a minute. Listen, I can deal with frequent load times. I can deal with long load times. I can deal with nothing to do or look at during load times. But when I have to deal with more than one of these at a time, that's what makes for the worst loading screens. GTA 5 is easy to forgive considering you have one long boot up and then practically no load times during the actual game. But then with something like Animal Crossing New Horizons, there's this long ass wait at the start, an unstoppable dialogue sequence, another wait, and then when we get into the actual game, we still have these clunky ass loads when entering buildings. What exactly are we loading here? Dude, loading screens can be the worst things ever. But are there any that are truly the best? Even some of the coolest ones out there, they're kind of just making the most out of a bad situation. Look up best loading screens of all time and tell me, do they elicit a hanker? Skyrim lets me move a 3D model around sluggishly. Well, hot damn, at that point, this is the true loading screen. Resident Evil's ominous opening door really added to the survival horror experience. The genuine fear of what's on the other side just made 10 times more effective by how slow it was. This is a loading screen that enhanced the game. Until after you've seen it for the 40th time, it kind of loses its luster. Oh God, what's on the other side? It's drywall. Tips and tricks, yeah, that's a pretty easy way to use up this time, but I don't think I ever learned a damn thing from these. Any tip and or trick on these things is surface level knowledge that's just like, wow, the more you know. Lots of cute ones like these Dragon Ball titles, Okami's Paw Prints, Devil May Cry 3's Assault Charges. Hey, I respect the hell out of these. They're pretty cool. But that's the farthest they ever go. If I had the choice between no loading screens and loading screens with funny pictures on them,
would I rather wait or not?
Like, I know I sound like the last guy you'd want to hang out with by siding with the former, but I'm sorry, I like these, but let's be honest here. Nowadays, as loading screens become less and less frequent and intrusive with the evolution of technology, anybody that says how they miss loading screens, I just have to respond with, really? It's like saying you miss instruction manuals or game magazines or video rental stores. I have some great memories with these things, but do you truly miss them? If they are brought back, are you genuinely gonna utilize them, or are you just gonna think it's neat? Because with the release of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles, SSD storage became a standard for video games, making load times, well, not extinct, but so damn fast, there's really no point to doing anything special with these screens anymore. And listen, I'd love to give some poetic statement on how we lost something with the death of unique loading screens, but how many games were doing them to begin with? Most didn't care, like look at this. And the ones that did care to put something here, it says more about the developers and their passion to make the most out of the cards they're dealt with than it does about the validity of loading screens. The screens aren't what's special here. It's what the developers decided to do with them.
Scott here. Loading screens are the only thing that stands between me and happiness. We spent decades complaining about them, and now that they're not as common, you know people are out there saying, damn, I miss loading screens. Why? People love to bitch. For example, oh,